Hi, this is Chris,
And Ophelia DeSaris from Women Speak Out.
and we had an interesting conversation
We
a
did?
couple days ago. We did.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
What was it?
We were talking about survivors
Hmm.
and how different survivors deal with their circumstances of their abuse. And what do you have to say about that?
Well, I received an email. Actually, I get a lot of emails from people who have opinions about how they think things should go with survivorship and people's relationships with their abusers. And one person in particular, who I'm friends with, came to me and wanted to talk about my relationship with my abuser and how it wasn't really what she thought it should be.
Yeah, I mean, people are, when it comes to abuse, there's not kind of there's sort of a black and white mentality as to what it means to be a survivor, what that entails, if you've confronted your abuser, um, if your abuser's still in your life or not. Does that mean you still consider yourself a victim? Have you dealt with your trauma because of it? And when it comes to survivorship, it's not a black and white thing. There's a lot of gray areas. And
People do make a lot of assumptions. People make a lot of assumptions based on their own experience, I think.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I have different types of friends who are survivors. Ones who've confronted their abusers and cut their families out of their life, and they felt like that was their path to heal. I know people who their abusers died. They didn't get that opportunity, but they found their own path to healing. And there are others who still have their abusers in their life. I mean, 90% of predators are either close family members or close friends, people that are interconnected into their lives. And while you may be able to say this is how you should handle the circumstances of your abuse, there's no blueprint.
There's a lot of well-intentioned people, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the person who came to me was well-intentioned. I mean, love her up. But the problem is that you're not living my life, and you're not taking into account things that I've put into motion that have to do with my journey. Things that I've already thought of, things about how how it affected my life. Sure, how it continues to affect my life. But also, not knowing what conversations have been had, what boundaries I've set for myself. I mean, I was talking to my therapist just the other day. Again, everybody needs to have a good therapist. And we were talking about perceptions surrounding my relationship with one of my abusers. That, I'm still in contact with this person. And I found myself sort of putting judgment on myself, which I found was really weird because I was already settled in my decision and my relationship with this person. But because of conversations that I'd had, I just found myself questioning what I felt was a good thing for me. I'd given forgiveness, not for that person but for myself, and I'm settled with it. I've healed from it. I talk about it, because I'm open to it, and I don't know, that judgment just doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, and that's like you speak from a personal level, and from the level of being an advocate, you have to think that me in my role as an advocate, I would like to think that I don't necessarily have everything figured out, and I wouldn't expect anyone else to have their entire life worked out. And a lot of times we broadcast those victories that we feel like we had in our mind, but there's a lot of black, that comes with it. Things that we haven't dealt with, things that we're constantly dealing with now. And I'm effective as an advocate because I can see the gray areas. I can put myself in the shoes of somebody who has not dealt with all the circumstances of their abuse, because I haven't. And it shouldn't be expected that I would have dealt with all those things.
I think there's an idea, though, from a larger group that if you're advocating that more often than not you do have all the answers. And that's a big problem. That's a lot of pressure. You know what I mean?
That definitely is. But don't you think it hinders our ability to help people? If to come from a point of view that we do have all the answers,
nobody
when
has
we
all
don't?
the answers, and I can't, based on my experience. I mean, I have a vast experience over lots of years, and personal and education and career wise. But I mean, I still can't say what you're supposed to do. I can give you options. I can talk to you about similarities. But at the end of the day...
And you come from your own personal experience. And everybody has their own personal experience. No two paths are the same. And how something worked for somebody may not necessarily work for you.
Yeah.
And people shouldn't judge you because of that. People shouldn't discriminate against you because of that. Because us as survivors, feeling like there's a stigma attached to us, not being able to come out and speak about it, we don't want to create another box within the survivor community that, you know what, if you didn't do a certain thing, then what right do you have to talk about it?
And you know what I don't like about it too, is it really takes away from what we're trying to achieve. It's kind of like this infighting that happens, where instead of really focusing on the issue, you're kind of focusing on each other and sort of coming up with this. You're creating a new problem.
Yeah, it creates two sides to things now. Because if I dealt with things in a certain way and I felt like I should have dealt with it in this way, and then I see somebody that hasn't dealt with it in that way, what am I to think of them? Are they on the other side now? Is there, if I'm the white, what about all the people that are in the black? Do they not want to necessarily come forward and speak about it now because they're embarrassed?
Yeah, but
even amongst the survivors, now they're embarrassed.
The reality is that there's not just one way to deal with something, though.
No, there's not.
There can't be.
No, there's a million ways to deal with stuff. It's not cut and dry. That's the message that we want to convey. It's not cut and dry,
no.
And it doesn't have to be. And your circumstance doesn't have to be cut and dry for you to participate and feel that you're a survivor and that you're working towards the path that belongs to you, your path.
I think safety is key. Because the survivors, our safety and our boundaries are pushed. And so the argument could be, well, what about, if you can't see what I see? What if you don't see what I see? What if the argument is that, you're in the midst of it, and I was there, and I dealt with it this way. I confronted my abuser, and I decided to cut them out of my life. And I think that you should too. What's your answer to that?
What's my answer to that?
Yeah.
I feel railroaded. I feel disempowered. I may not be in a place to approach my survivorship in the way that you are. I may not have achieved that level. I may never achieve that road. I may go a totally different road.
Yeah.
And that's acceptable.
Yeah.
It is acceptable as long as I'm healing, as long as that works for me.
It reminds me of being an advocate for domestic violence victims, and it would be very easy for me to come into their living room and tell them, because I know what they need to do. I know what they need to do to get out of those violent situations. I don't want them to be in those situations. I want only the best for them. I want them to be free of the abuse and know how amazing they are. But they're not there. They're not there yet. Or maybe they are. But my job isn't to go in and tell them what to do. My job is not oppressive. That's oppressive, right? I'd be taking the role of the abuser. I'd be going in and telling them what to do, just like the abuser does.
Yeah, and they'll resent you for it.
Right. So instead I want to give them options. I want to say, here's a bag of options, and any one of these could work for you. And then talk to them about what else works for them. Why? Not because I may not know the answers to what they're going to say, but because they know themselves better than I could ever know their situation.
Yeah, and they will judge themselves more harshly than you and I could ever possibly judge them. So the things that we tell them, the things that we highlight in our judgments, these are not things that they haven't thought about a million times and dealt with. So we want to step forward with compassion
and empower people.
Yeah,
you really need to think about how we speak to people the words that we use. And there's a lot of really well-intentioned people out there, who want to open a dialogue. And luckily for me, this one person who did come to me, I mean, it ended positively, and we had an open discussion, and we'll probably talk about it again. But at the end of the day, the decision's mine.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
The decision's yours, and like you said, having the discussion is important. And I support people asking me questions and asking me what worked for me and why that worked for me, and contrast it with their approach. I totally support that, because that's only going to help everybody else. We should always be asking questions and trying to figure out in the end what approach works for us based on our community and how other people have dealt with it. So,
and how our situation changes. Not everything's set in stone. I could react differently in a couple months based on changes in my own life, or how the relationship may change, or the person, or me. But that's for me to decide without judgment.
Yeah, without judgment.
Without judgment.
So, I think we should leave it there.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to comments, actually. I think we need to get this conversation going, because we cannot be the only ones dealing with this. And
no, so you comment down there, right there. And if you'd like to give us 5 stars or 4 or 1, if you hate us, go ahead.
Do it.
We don't care. Judge us.
Judge us.
Judge us.
No,
We're
don't judge
immune.
us.
No.
Don't judge us.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. And you can find us at womenspeakout.org.
Yeah, we want to hear what you have to say. Peace out.